I'm the associate editor for Muster. I have the honor to interview Brandon Byrd, who is the editor of the December special issue of the Journal of Civil War Era. This special issue is examining the questions of Black internationalism. Brandon is a historian of the Black intellectual history and social history with a special focus on the United States and Haiti. He is the author of The Black Republic, African Americans and the Fate of Haiti, which was a finalist for the Pauli Murray Prize, which is given by the African American Intellectual History Society. He is also the co-editor of Ideas in Unexpected Places, Reimagining Black Intellectual History. Along with these publications, Brandon's scholarship has appeared in journals such as Slavery and Abolition, the Journal of African American History, the Journal of Haitian Studies, Modern Intellectual History, and the Diplomatic History, as well as popular outlets such as GQ and ESPN's The Defeated. Brandon, good afternoon. I'd like to begin with a table setting question. When you think of Black internationalism, what does Black internationalism mean to you?
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me on, Rob. I appreciate it. So it's a great question. It's one, I thought a lot about it, and it's certainly the first one that should be asked anytime we're, trying to deploy terminology in this manner. I'm going to give a bit of a long-winded answer. And this is an answer that's colored by being a historian of the 20th century too, but primarily of the 19th century. The 19th century, it's the century of emergent nationalisms, of the nation state as a global political form, especially a Western political form. It's an era of nation building, including in Haiti, including in Liberia, right? So Black nation building. And the corollary to all of that is the emergence of internationalisms, plural, I think. It's the emergence of thinking in which, and certainly thinking informed by nationalism oftentimes, but also thinking beyond those borders being erected both psychologically and, quite literally, or at least literally in terms of the laws that then shape people's everyday lives, right? Shape policies as well, thinking beyond those borders. So that's what I think of in terms of Black internationalism is, the thinking of people of African descent, beyond those beyond those national and colonial borders, right? Thinking and doing, right? And that's thinking, of course, informed by the problems of the day, the problems that widely speaking, generally speaking, people of African descent recognize as theirs, right? The problems of slavery, the problems of colonialism, the problems of racial oppression, sometimes the problems of capitalism, which is immersed in all of these things. Right. So again, I appreciate that's a pretty capacious definition, and I don't begrudge and in many cases agree with other definitions, particularly oftentimes, we locate Black internationalism there in which it becomes, part of a broader popular politics, the interwar period. You see these anti-capitalist, anti-imperial formations. I know some scholars, thinking of like Gerald Horne, Sharice Burton Stelly, will use Black internationalism, capital B, capital I, to describe that particular, radical politics, radical intellectual culture. Right. So I suppose the short wind of it is it's for me, it's appreciating that, and also trying to identify global orientations, in a preceding period, habits of mind, even, if you will.
Right. No, I think you've anticipated my second question, right? And there's such a rich body of scholarship on Black internationalism in the 20th century. And really the late 18th and early 19th century is also this moment where kind of the Haitian Revolution and kind of common wind kind of looms large in the kind of Black imagination. But I wonder for scholars of the Civil War era, right? This journal is asking us to think more capaciously about the kind of Black international thought in the Civil War. And I wonder kind of if you could talk a little bit about the origin of the special issue, kind of
Hmm.
how these questions came to mind, why you decided to bring these questions to the journal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So I gotta think back a little bit. Yeah, so I know Greg and Kate, and a lot of appreciation for them. Reached out to me about possibly editing a special issue, and I think it was an open-ended invitation in terms of, hey, do you have any ideas for this sort of thing? And this was certainly an idea. Thinking about Black internationalism and the Civil War and Reconstruction eras and beyond, as it turned out. That's something that immediately came to mind, in large part due to the types of questions that animated the broader research trajectory, and certainly the first book. Uh, how did Black people in the United States, conceptualize that moment of emancipation, capital E? Did they, located as part of a broader, transnational, even global trend? When they thought about the prospects of what that freedom could be, were they informed by, events and struggles elsewhere? The answer to that, and it, I think is yes, right? And that's, part of what I tried to demonstrate there. So again, these type of questions that long animated me, and immediately came to mind in terms of questions that I certainly didn't think that I had the final answer to. So hey, could we think about this some more? And this seemed like a great opportunity to do that. And I suppose the other part of it too is that I by dint of just this being a relatively small profession, had a number of folks in mind who were sort of at the cutting edge of uh, uh, these types of questions, and were uh, certainly interested in the types of things that I thought would be of interest to readers who would eventually look at a special issue on Black internationalism in the age of emancipation.
I wanted to ask about that age of emancipation framework and thinking about, like,
Yeah,
on the one
yeah.
hand, this is thinking about bringing new questions to the fore, right? Trying to reconceptualize this moment, but you're also clearly pulling on previous
Yeah,
historiographies, different intellectual genealogy. I wonder kind of how you
right.
saw Age of Emancipation, as well as this kind of global vision, right? This Robin D.G. Kelley
Yeah,
call to thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to tackle that two ways and try to be concise in doing so. Uh, yeah, so first with the allusion to Robin D.G. Kelley, the global vision of Black history, and just thinking through and trying to put some thoughts on the page about what are some things that we could maybe accomplish with this journal. One was certainly historiographical thing, in the sense that so there's certainly ample. I don't know. Ample may be a exaggeration. There's certainly scholarship, transnational, comparative, international scholarship on the Civil War Reconstruction eras, right? A lot of that owes, I think, to the quote unquote transnational turn in U.S. history. Which is a 1990s onward, phenomenons where that's really located. Um, but in some ways, some of that scholarship, to my mind, asked different questions. It was oriented towards different historical actors, uh, than perhaps an African Americanist, a scholar of African American history, would foreground, right? So you have that phenomenon, but then you also have, here's the allusion to Robin D.G. Kelley, certainly, this. Uh, Certainly growing body of scholarship on Black internationalism, and as Kelley points out, this much longer tradition of uh, scholars of African American history and African American scholars themselves orienting themselves to the world outside the United States, right? Dating back to Carter G. Woodson, right? When he institutionalizes Negro History Week, he's doing so with reference to the Haitian Revolution, for example, Toussaint Louverture, making sure that's part of the curriculum he's, trying to bring to K through 12 Black schools to their teachers. Right. So historiographically, trying to perhaps wed these things together as it pertained, to that 1860s, 1870s moment in the United States. How can we, better bring that together and put African Americans at the center of a transnational, story of that era. Um, and so to now take it from that second way, I think once you do that, then existing frameworks, they may get messy, right? You may need to tinker with them, right? Because uh, it's not just an additive model. It's not just, we add to take one protagonist from, the issue Samantha Payne's excellent article. You can't just take Samuel Scotron and the Free Cuba campaign, add it in, stir, right? And the mixture is going to look different, right? And I think one way it looks different is it really shows us the need to, I think, understand Civil War and Reconstruction as part of, a longer term trends, and especially longer term trends from the vantage point and experience of people of African descent, right? Here I think about, taking it beyond the issue to other scholarship. Um, you know, oh shit, I'm blanking. Matthew Clavin's work, right, on how African Americans, understand the Civil War as, as an abolition war, as we understand, but on a much more substantive level, are drawing links, to the Haitian Revolution, right, and that's evident through naming practices, through the, deeper. Uh, Even deeper, more substantive, what we might call theoretical lens that they take to that conflict, all those things, right? So that's where that age of emancipation framework comes into play.
I appreciate that. You mentioned Samantha Payne. I wonder if you could say a little bit. You see, you have a real dream team of scholars, and right, Bianca
Yeah.
Dang, Christina Davidson, Guy Emerson Mounts, Samantha Payne. How do you see their work working together and kind of shining light into some of these broad questions of the age of emancipation?
Yeah. Yeah. So first, it's a big thanks to all of them for saying yes. It's rare that, you have four scholars. Hey, it would be great to have, these four folks on it, and then all of them say yes. Uh, so I'm grateful for that. It ended up coming together well, I think, both thematically and chronologically, right? Bianca Dang's her article was situated the earliest chronologically, situated in the era of the Haitian Revolution, uh, showing the experiences of enslaved people who are trafficked, likely trafficked. She begins a story in Saint Domingue, but rightfully suggests these are folks who are almost certainly first trafficked from Africa to Saint Domingue. Then, in the midst of the Haitian Revolution, are dispersed elsewhere, including Cuba, end up in and central site of focus for her is Philadelphia, and looks at not only those experiences of on freedom in those different places, but then the way those people of African descent and litigants try, with the help of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society, try to secure their freedom, in part by making reference to not only local laws there, but emancipation decrees and things like that that preceded their trafficking there. And then she ends up with the African Americans, including those from Philadelphia, who end up going to Haiti during the 1920s, seeking something, a freedom far in excess to that in, ostensibly post-slavery Pennsylvania, right? Um, uh, and in many ways, that foreshadows a lot of the story she tells there, foreshadows the things that we would associate with the Civil War and Reconstruction era, right? The messiness of emancipation, right? The quotidian attempts to try to secure a greater freedom, all of that thing, right? So it really sets us up nicely when we move to the work of I think Samantha Payne's article is next, and then Christina Davidson, and then Guy Emerson Mount is last. Samantha Payne, as I mentioned, is delving deep into the ways that after the end of the Civil War, African Americans not being, content with the end of slavery in one place, exclusive of others, try to wage a campaign, for the national independence and the abolition of slavery in Cuba. Uh, uh, Christina Davidson is also looking towards the Caribbean with a very, very important story, looking at the Black councils, Black diplomats in the Dominican Republic, a site that's often overlooked when we think about Black internationalism, regardless of era, right? And especially diplomats who don't often figure, into these, stories of, not only thinking about Black internationalism, but also Black intellectual history, but whose lives really tell us a great deal about the messiness of toggling between, the nation and trying to identify and form affiliations beyond it. And then Guy Emerson Mount's article is last, and he's looking at various U.S. colonization schemes in Hawaii and the Philippines, and looking at the ways that African Americans engage with those, both in ways that we might consider, subversive, in ways that sometimes are wrapped up in broader, U.S. imperial projects, and in some ways, again, back to the subversive that are have a anti-imperial orientation towards them, right? So, again, both, thematically, we have, through lines of travel, of anti-slavery, of imperialism and anti-imperialism. Chronologically, we get to span that entire, age of emancipations. There's nice coverage geographically, moving from, of course, we have the U.S. looming large, but then also the Caribbean, and also some relatively understudied sites in the Caribbean, all the way to the Pacific world, right? So to my biased opinion here, it really does cover a lot of ground.
Right. No, this is kind of be a very important, I think, kind of long tail for kind of people who are thinking about a broad set of questions of the Civil War era as a scholar of
Mm-hmm.
Reconstruction. And you kind of mentioned, right, the kind of way that it might challenge some of our kind of ways that we understand questions of
Yeah.
citizenship and pursuit of political power.
Right.
As some of the scholars of the West and kind of the kind of Western side of Reconstruction and
Yep.
kind of thinking about empire, thinking about citizenship, thinking about the kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
ways that kind of African Americans in this moment are both part of this Black radical tradition, but in some
Yep.
ways, might also kind of confronting kind of complicity
Yeah.
with empire.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Right. Part of uh, what I think we try to do here collectively, and I think part of what's accomplished is uh, seeing Civil War and Reconstruction era from different vanpoints, from the perspective for some who uh, hope for some of the things accomplished in that era, but for whom, it's an unforeseen endpoint. They, it's literally in a time to come, and it's a time unforeseen. Look at it from the vantage point of, African Americans for whom it's an absolutely crucial pivot point, for whom, in the moment they recognize and attach a significance to it. They attach hopes, aspirations to it, et cetera. And then also looking from the vantage point of African Americans who have the opportunity to look back on it, and sometimes still attaching hopes and aspirations to that bygone era, and also in reflecting on it, it shapes at times other aspirations and sometimes frustrations. Yeah, and to your point too, especially for those for whom it's a real pivot point. We get to see and ask the questions about, okay, what does it mean then to move? There's that classical formation, right? It's I mean, it's a number of scholars of like the um, foundational generation of Black historians, where you have that formulation, from slave to citizen, that, and we really get to see like, what does, but as much as we could say, and we can say rightfully so, like, of course, right? what exists on paper does not always match reality. But with that said, what does that legal move towards, citizenship and, at least, ostensibly legal equality and protection of the law, like what, type of, new action does that entail? What, speaking of mental, habits of mind and orientations, what does that, produce, right? So we have the chance to really, think through those things.
Right. I mean, to quote the one Black international thinker, Frederick Douglass, these are the lessons of the hour.
Yeah.
These are things
Yes.
we
Right.
have to
Right.
kind of
Yep.
wrestle with. I want to get you out on this question.
Okay.
What are some of the future directions that you see for the future of Black internationalism? And if you were speaking directly to graduate students,
Yeah.
what are some potential directions or kind of advice you'd give for folks embarking on the early stages of this journey?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's a great question. To the last, I'd say just, you continue going with open minds, right? There's a lot out there to, still be discovered. There's a lot out there to still, a lot of scholarship to build on, right? I think, speaking frankly, like this is not a field of inquiry that's saturated by any means, right? So go at it. And thinking about the things that I think are ripe for exploration. One, speaking back to Christina's article, I'm really intrigued by the potential of more work on Black consuls and diplomats. Because speaking of changes in the era, it's a massive change, and I think through the lens of those figures, of course, some are well known, Frederick Douglass, John Mercer Langston, uh, but there's plenty who are lesser known, and I think through all of their lives, we can see. Uh, we can see, and I don't want to simplify it and play into the what sort of standard idea, especially of diplomats of the 20th century, this paradox of loyalty, between race and nation. I think we can see how they engage substantively um, with their in their racial identities. We can see, how they approach the question of creeping U.S. Global power. How they understood, the rights of peoples elsewhere, of nation states at the other end of that U.S. imperial power. Um, there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. Um, I'm also interested right now, and this is connected to personal interests. Continue to get at the immigration strains, late 19th century. Those are in thinking along with Kendra Field. Those are strains that are both domestic and foreign, and they don't exist in those separate silos, but instead are intertwined, right? So the exodusters and the great movement to westward to Kansas, the movement parallel, to Liberia and to West Africa, right? The things that move people. In the late 19th century to, literally pick up stakes, right? Because I certainly think that uh, it's certainly a question of the material, right? How to improve one's own life and one's own situation, right? But also, beyond that, uh, there's a whole intellectual and mental world of thinking about rights and belonging and community building and what Michelle Mitchell identifies as racial destiny. That we can continue to think along. How and that relates, and I'm being long-winded here, but that relates to thinking about how these generations thought about the prospects of freedom, and also thought about what the abolition of slavery should mean, right? What did it mean to be a new Negro before the new Negro movement? More work on, the immigrationism, Pan-African and Black nationalists, politics, of the late 19th century, I think can really help us get at those type of things.
Well, this has been a kind of incredibly rich and kind of wide-ranging discussion, and I think it reflects the kind of richness and the wide-ranging nature of this special issue, which is now available through the Journal of the Civil War. That December issue is now
Oh, nice.
available, and you can read it, you can pick it up. We hope that you get a chance to kind of commune and kind of be in conversation with Dr. Brandon Byrd, who's kind of done a real kind of service to the field and to the journal with kind of bringing these ideas to the fore. And Brandon, thank you for taking some time this afternoon. Looking forward to kind of seeing where your own work goes in the future, but also kind of for future work in the world of Black internationalism.
All right. Thanks again, Rob. I really appreciate it. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.